I finally finished Stranger Things. I'm sorry it's taken this long. I don't really binge watch Netflix shows. I like Netflix shows, but I usually take my time with them. It's taken me a couple of weeks, but I have finally finished Stranger Things, and my god, it is amazing. Stranger Things is created by these brothers called the Duffer Brothers. They have made a movie called Hidden. I have never seen that movie before. I looked up their IMDb, and I've never heard of that movie whatsoever. But I saw ads for Stranger Things on YouTube. I thought it looked really interesting, and I checked it out. And I made a really good decision. Stranger Things takes place in Hawkins, Indiana, where there is an investigation over a kid who goes missing in the middle of the night. The mother is frantic, his friends are concerned, nobody knows where this kid went. But as the police dig deeper and deeper into this investigation, they find out that strange things are going on. Stranger Things. Yeah. I used the title. The best way to describe this show is it is true science fiction. It is if somebody took the science fiction of Steven Spielberg, combined it with the themes of Stephen King into this awesome 80s feel series, and that's what you have. This show is really equivalent to Super 8, where it takes place in the 80s, and it has that 80s feel to it. Let's talk about the characters real quick, because the characters are the greatest thing about this show. The kids, the friends of the missing boy. These kids were so awesome. Like all the characters in the show, the characters feel like actual people, whereas these kids, they feel like actual kids. They're in the 80s, they're reading stuff like comic books, they're referencing comic books like X-Men, they reference movies, they reference Star Wars. It just feels like these are actual kids, and the dialogue that they are saying is that of what kids would say. Like if something abnormal was happening to them, of course they would reference something from a television show or a comic book. That's just how kids are, and I commend this series for realistic dialogue for these kids. One of the boys' sister, she gets kind of wrapped up into this, but before and in the middle of her subplot, it's almost like a coming-of-age story, really. Where the kids kind of reminded me of the Goonies and movies like Stand By Me, this girl kind of reminded me of coming-of-age 80s movies like, I don't know, The Breakfast Club. There's also a character that the boys come into contact with that kind of explains more about what's going on, Eleven. She's this strange girl that came from this government facility, and she's got telekinetic and telepathic powers, and is also a throwback to 80s culture. It was almost like I was watching a version of E.T. really. And I love the friendship that is built between this girl and these boys because she hasn't experienced the outside world. She's been held in a government facility, and seeing her interact with these boys was very heartwarming. And one of my favorite characters in this show was the police chief, Hopper. Like, you see where this guy is coming from. When this kid goes missing and he's confronted by the mother, he's the most rational cop ever. Because it's a small town and nothing really happens in this town, and he figures, oh, we're gonna find the kid. He's probably like, I don't know, at school or something, you know? He's probably playing hooky, you gotta calm down. But when he starts to realize that things are getting really serious, he steps up. I was behind this guy the whole time. He is by far the best character in Stranger Things. He also has a really sad backstory that makes him a really respected character, and it's one of the reasons why I also like this character as well. I just respected this character a lot, and when things were looking rough, he stepped up and he was a badass. This guy was awesome in the show, and I can't wait to see him in season 2 if they make a season 2. The effects in this show are actually really good as well. They play with practical effects, they play with CGI, and it looks pretty good for a television show. The monster that comes into play is CGI, but I didn't really care whatsoever. It looked good for CGI. And I love the idea that they presented the show about dimensions and how we can go into other dimensions that are very similar to our own. It's kind of like Insidious, where you go into this dream world, but it's kind of like our own, but it's just a different dimension. It took a really familiar concept and made it fresh at the same time, really. But like, my god, guys, Netflix is killing it with these Netflix series. Like I said, science fiction of Steven Spielberg and dark concepts of Stephen King. This was legit. If you guys have not seen this series, check it out. Stranger Things. This is by far another reason why people should have Netflix. I can't wait for season 2. It's gonna be great. So yes, guys, that was my review of the first season of Stranger Things. Comment down below what you think of this series if you've seen it yet. Like the video, share it, and please subscribe to Pixel Talk for reviews, reactions, and gaming content. Thank you guys so much. I am Corbin Stuckey, and this is Pixel Talk.